Hi, thanks for tuning in for another episode of Ask Spurrell CPA. Today we're talking about motivation, fact versus fiction for our business owners. I have Cole here with me. Cole, how many cups of coffee are you in now today?
Two.
So Cole's functioning at a higher level
Starting to get there.
than we started off in the morning because he has 2 cups of coffee. So we'll see how the crash. You crash or you just keep going? You just keep loading all day long. Okay, that's good. That's the way to go. Okay, the quote we have on this topic today is Zig Ziglar: "Motivation gets you going, and habit gets you there." The statistic, why is this relevant? Industry Canada, 15% of businesses fail in year 1, 30% fail by year 2, and 50% fail by year 5. We at Spurrell Associates think that's completely unavoidable. And the story that we have is, we talk about numbers to business owners all day, but sometimes, there's the psychological aspect of it. And business owners, they don't have any tools to get motivated, and misconceptions about staying motivated, what it's like to stay motivated as an entrepreneur. So Cole, what are the questions that you think these business owners should be asking?
Should you be worried if you're not motivated all the time?
Yeah. No, don't be worried. Business owners, they come to us and say, I had a hard week, and they look at other business owners and they're happy, and they probably spend a little bit too much time on Instagram, and people are posing and pretending on lives they don't have. Don't worry. As you go through a business, you're going to have ups, you're going to have downs. That's just part of the process. You shouldn't. You're human. It's not like good entrepreneurs don't have that. They're not just super motivated all the time. They go through peaks and valleys. So don't worry. Don't feel bad. Don't beat yourself up over it. That's not a reasonable expectation.
How can you use positive information to offset inevitable failures?
Okay, so you're going to have a certain amount of negative interactions as a business owner. There's going to be customers who, sometimes they won't be happy with you. There can be employees that may not be happy with you, suppliers. There's going to be problems. There's going to be friction. That's part of the process. And you're going to have failure, which is, part of it as well. You're going to have rejection. You're trying to get a contract. It doesn't work out. So we're going to have an inevitable amount of negative information. And we can't control that. We can't get that off. Don't worry about trying to get that off. We can't control that. But what we can control is the positive information that we put in. Are we sitting home after that and just consuming the news, which is always the bad news? What sort of other information are we consuming with our free time, our discretionary time? What sort of books are we reading? What sort of articles are we reading? What sort of video are we watching? Is it positive or is it negative? Because we can control that, so we can help balance that off and kind of offset some of those negative interactions that and keep our energy levels as high as possible by looking at the things that you do have a choice. What we're reading, what we're watching, and decide. Is this a good use? Is this going to help offset some of the negative challenges that I have, or is this going to contribute to that those problems?
Should you limit unnecessary contact with negative people?
Yeah, that's a successful trait that a lot of entrepreneurs utilize, and there's going to be a certain amount of interaction you got to have with customers, especially dealing in any business where they're making really significant decisions. The business owner, the customer is going to have a certain amount of stress, and sometimes they're going to try to pass that stress on to you, and you have to deal with that. But do you want to deal with all the time people who are just always negative? So there's a lot of successful business owners out there that will swear by you need to limit your exposure to high drama people. So if they're drama all the time, you only have a certain amount of energy to deal with that. So you have to ask yourself about the people that you're dealing with. Is this a good use? Because you're only going to have a certain amount of energy to overcome dealing with those difficult people. And if you spend that energy dealing with people that are unnecessary, you could cut them out of your life. Sometimes that's the thing to do.
Does motivation come first or action?
This is the crux, the big misconception of it is people think I get motivated and then I'll go to work. But really, most motivation comes from progress. which never happens unless you start. So if you want motivation, start, finish something, and then you'll be motivated. If you try to get motivated before you start, you'll probably just never start that often. You won't get a lot done. So you need to just reframe it. It's like, I'm not motivated. Do I need motivation? Do I need a Tony Robbins seminar? Or do I simply just need to knock off a task on my to-do list and I'll probably feel better about myself? So just remember, action comes first, and motivation actually comes as a result of some progress on that action.
What can you do every morning when the alarm sounds for motivation?
Get up. Yeah, so I say that a little bit cursedly, but get up. You made a plan with yourself to get up at 5 a.m. or hopefully it's 5 a.m. Maybe it's 6 a.m. 5 a.m. You made a plan to get up at yourself. Don't hit the snooze button. It's like the first thing you can do. You can get 100% on the first task that you do every day. It's just get up at the time that you plan to get up at. And it's more relevant probably just to get up at that time that you actually plan to get up, rather than what time. That might even be just as important, really. So if you made a plan with yourself, I want to accomplish this goal, get 100% on that task. Just get up at the time that you plan to get up that day.
Are you going to have to do things as an entrepreneur that you're not motivated to do?
Yes, you will have to do them. You won't like doing all of it. You just won't. You might like doing the advertising and not the marketing. You might like doing the sales pitches and not the the troubleshooting when things go wrong, or vice versa. You're gonna have to do things that you're not motivated to do, and you just need to get in the habit of the motivation actually occurs when you actually accomplish something. So you have to start. It really comes down to start, and it starts in the first thing you do in the morning. And did I hit the snooze button, or did I get 100% on that first task?
How does having a schedule help with motivation?
So ultimately, we're gonna revert back to our habits. Where there's going to be periods of low motivation, and what's going to keep us on track in those periods of low motivation is just having a schedule. I do this at this time. I do task B at that time. I do task C at that time. So when you have low motivation, you're still showing up. You're still starting. You're still getting things done. Whereas if you don't have that schedule, maybe in the period of super motivation you can accomplish something, but that's not going to happen if you have that schedule of what I do at what times. Now all of a sudden, in periods of low motivation, you're still productive. You're still not just working on items, but you're working on items that you strategically outline that are worth your time, and put time for those items in your calendar. And now we're not just productive in high motivation periods. We're productive all the time.
How can doing fewer things increase motivation?
So often one of the causes of motivation is too many things. All of a sudden we have all of these things that we're trying to do, and we're not really doing anything all that well, or we're not accomplishing any of them. So if we can start looking at the tasks that we have, and it's like, which are the ones that are, if I was to accomplish these tasks, everything else starts to become unnecessary. I have this one real difficult client. They're always difficult all the time. Do I want to spend all day dealing with that one difficult client? Or do I want to do that revenue generating task that makes 10 leads come in next week? Which one are you going to, spend your time on? So if you're doing fewer things, often you're going to have more progress on those fewer things. Your mind is going to have less clutter, and your energy level and your motivation is going to be a little bit higher.
What will distractions do to your motivation?
Distractions are the killer to your motivation. So, you might have that, notifications turned on your smartphone, and you actually think that if I keep in touch with people on every minute of the day, that I'm somehow going to be more motivated. There is an overwhelming research on this topic that those continual distractions throughout the day is what causes stress, and actually releases a kind of a chemical stress hormone into your body. So you think you're being happy on keeping on this, getting distracted all the time, but remember, every time we get distracted, we become less productive, and it takes a while for us to reach our peak mental state where we're actually accomplishing stuff. So every time we're getting interrupted, we're further away from accomplishing something, which again, it's motivation happens after we accomplish something. So it's after finishing that task. So every time we get interrupted, we're further away from that feeling of task completion and motivation. So what we need to do is just limit those distractions down to an absolute minimum. Are those times that we can block off that we're doing just this, and there is no cell phone, there is no email, there is no notifications on my phone, and I'm going to knock off this task. That's what's going to build the motivation. Just that time block of an event, and we're actually going to accomplish what we set out to do. Heck, even if we accomplish 75% of what we set out to do, that's better than just being distracted all day. So limiting those distractions is actually going to increase your motivation.
How does having a coach keep you motivated?
So having a coach keeps you motivated because your mind will tend to wander, and often your mind will you'll talk yourselves into doing the same things. We're naturally programmed to repeat the same behaviors time after time because millions of years ago, that's how we didn't get eaten by tigers or fall off cliffs, because we didn't take on too many risks, and those people survived, and we've just evolved to have that inherent trait. So having a coach will help you keep motivated on that change that's actually necessary, and then it keeps you accountable. If I plan to do this, sometimes it's a lot easier to break that plan to yourself than it is to someone else. If you got to meet with them again in a week or a month or even at the end of the year, and you had planned to do this, and you'd set it out and you'd put it in writing, and there was a game plan in place, and then you get to the end of that time period where you're supposed to meet again, and you're not done, and you've set this goal. It's a reasonable goal. You and your coach thought it was reasonable to move things forward, and you didn't do it. That's hard, and so the coach can keep you on track. So it's that accountability partner, and it's that person who can talk you out sometimes of doing the things that you want to do because they're easy or they're familiar.
It's very much like that, like at the gym as well. Like
same thing.
You're always drawn to do the same exercises, same whatever. But then as soon as you have a coach there, they push you to do like the necessary different exercises.
Yeah, and they push you to do different things and show up to do them. Yeah. If you're scheduled to meet someone there, it just has that magical force where all of a sudden you show up when you were supposed to meet someone to show up. So it really does help. Thanks again for tuning in. As always, please hit that like and subscribe button so we can continue to deliver you tips on how to beat the odds at business. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to address in future videos, please leave them in the comments below. Thanks very much.
Thanks, guys.